That one line in 1 in 10 is, I'm another teenage suicide on a street that has no trees. You could see that it was, you know, that these people were just going to be left to their own devices. You could see during the Thatcher years how working class culture was being destroyed, you know. My old man worked at the BSA, British Small Arms. Eventually they made motorbikes. And he used to polish the motorbikes. That's what his job was. He was on the track polishing the chrome on the motorbikes. And we used to go to the social club, the work social club, on the grounds of the factory every Sunday. That was family night. And we used to go every Sunday, meet up with all the other kids. Works, fishing trips. They used to have fishing trips 2 or 3 times a year. And there was a pantomime every Christmas, you know. This was a time when unions were strong and working class culture was all about your family. It was all about, you know, whatever facilitated you bringing up, raising a good family. That's what the unions were fighting for. That was working class culture, you know, and this was what was destroyed by Thatcher. You know, my old man was made redundant in his 40s, I expect. You know, and how many people are going to get a different job in their 40s and 50s? Do you know what I mean? You could see how the Tories and Thatcher hated that working class culture, and they had it in their minds to stamp it out, you know, to destroy it. The miners were just a stronger example of what I'm talking about. The BSA used to do. Do you know what I mean? You've got all kinds of benefits being a miner. It's a shitty job, but the unions were strong and the pay was decent. You know what I mean? My old man raised 3 kids. He bought his own house. We had a holiday every year in Cornwall. He ran a second-hand motor. He had an allotment and we ate really well. That was good times, you know. We're talking 70s here, and they were good times for working people, you know. And when Thatcher came along, all that was destroyed, and I could see that destruction, and how the victims of that destruction that was rigged by Thatcherism, and you know, and that, you know, that reactionary right-wing way of looking at, you know, society, or no such thing as a society, as she said, you know. And I could see how that was being lost, you know. And 1 in 10 kind of inspired that in a way, because people were on the dole, you know. And it wasn't just about, the song isn't just about being on the dole, even though the first verse, that's what it starts as. But then it just expands, because it's all about the way they use statistics to get us ready for bad news, if you see what I mean. You know, 1 in 10 this, 1 in 10 that. That one line in 1 in 10 is, I'm another teenage suicide on a street that has no trees. You could see that it was, you know, these people were just going to be left to their own devices. You know what I mean? There's 3, 4, 5 million unemployed. More than that probably, because they put all the miners on sick instead of putting them on the dole, which meant that they were keeping the real figures down. You know, they were underestimating how many people were unemployed, because so many of the miners were put on the sick, and other factory workers. So that's what 1 in 10 was all about in the end, was the way that people were being, you know, that suffering was being ignored and being rationalised as, oh, it's 1 in 10 people, this 1 in 10, you know, that's an individual there. Do you know what I mean? That's you know, and in the end it just expands into, you know, it's an accident of birth. You know what I mean? That was the final line of 1 in 10, is that by accident we inherit where we're born. Do you know what I mean? And that, you know, that means that rich people remain rich and poor people remain poor. You know, and that's what all our songs are about. It's class war, really. You know, when you look at all our political songs, it's all about the fight between rich and poor. You know, and unfortunately, when we look at today, the rich won. You know, they won the battle. You know, there's so much more poverty around now than there was when I was a kid in the 70s, do you know what I mean, in the 60s and 70s. You know, even though statistically probably, you know, they're saying, oh, you've never had it, so good, but you could just see the deprivation, do you know what I mean? And it's getting worse and worse.